Good morning, everybody. It's Lily again here from Scotland's Wild Medicine Festivals. And with me this morning, I've got Christine Sparks. Christine, how you doing? Great to see you.
I am doing very well, Lily. Lovely to be here. Thank you for asking me.
You are so welcome. Now, you and I just met for the first time in Stonehaven. And the reason that you were along was because I had asked your husband, John, who I met years ago. I saw that he'd written a book, Sugar Free Zone, Sugar Addiction, big issue. So I messaged him and said, why don't you come and talk about this at the festival? And he said, oh, my wife is really good at stuff. Hey. So I suppose, like we were talking about earlier, I had no expectation. I knew you guys were into music, you're musicians, but I really didn't know who you were. And then I was just like blown away by your performance, as was everybody that saw you, I have to say. And there was a lot of people jealous that they missed you. So, and it is, I suppose, even for you, quite tricky. What did she do? I was like, well, she came on the stage, we're knitting. Then she gets the guitar out. One minute you're greeting, the next minute you're laughing your head off. I was like, to me it was almost like going to the Edinburgh Festival and watching a one woman show, and it was brilliant. I was like, you're an entertainer. So tell me how this has all evolved to
Yeah.
love yourself wildly.
Yeah, how it's all evolved. Now, the interesting thing was, so I have been, as you say, an entertainer, a performer for decades. I hate to think how many decades, but this particular iteration has evolved, one might say randomly. So the knitting is something I've done for years. And I was facilitating a 2-hour workshop with a group of artists down in Devon about 2 months ago. And I was sort of, I was using my brain thinking, should we do this? Should we do that? Knowing full well in my body, I know what to do.
Uh-huh.
We were going to lightly look at things like the inner critic, like, if what you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself that's not kind, very accessible stuff. But I recognised I was going too much into my brain. And I thought I need to find some way of getting into my body. So I started knitting. And the knitting, I was like, whoa, this is the thing that calms me down. Not realizing that, yeah, it's bilateral, it's repetitive, it's rhythmic, it's healing. So I decided to bring the knitting along. And what I was bringing to the I guess to the stage or to the people were, here am I, Christine Sparks, a woman of nearly 60 years old, postmenopausal, in many ways find a lot of freedom from that because I don't care about so many things I cared about before. But what I do have are what I'm an expert in is my life. What you're an expert in is your life. So what if I brought the knitting, the stories, and then the songs and poems that have been written from those stories, from those life experiences. So it just started as a what if. So I
Uh-huh.
did it a few times, and one of my friends said to me, "Do you realise how powerful it is that you're knitting and you're speaking? Because what you're not doing is looking directly at us and talking. You're just sharing something that's being created." And I
Yes.
thought, that feels good because here's the thing, whatever I bring to the world, I want it to be three things. I want it to be accessible, I want it to be relatable, and I want it to be kind or compassionate. So, I've done various one woman shows over my life, not realizing that's what I was doing. And I was sort of sitting one day thinking, what is the arc of what I want to bring? What is my offering? What's the arc of it? On the one hand, it goes from a song called Living a Lie, which I sang at Stonehaven, to Love Yourself Wildly, which is the final track. Well, there's quite an obvious arc. How did I go from living a lie to loving myself wildly? But the arc word, because I'm also a word person, I thought ARK, accessible, relatable, kind. And also an arc is something that holds precious cargo. So for me, Love Yourself Wildly was a provocation that I gave to someone online years ago as a sort of, what if you were to love yourself wildly? And some feedback came back from that, and then the song came from the feedback, and the song was in a play, in a one woman play. But it then became my mantra. The song itself says love yourself wildly, then it says love yourself softly, tenderly unstitch, but it also says love yourself fiercely, tigering your worth. And there is something about, and I see it all around me, Lilia, women of a certain age who care not a jot about things they used to care too much about and are incredibly powerful because they're willing to tell the truth in a way that is simple. Also in the body. How does it heal me, to be honest? How does it heal me to be in communication with other people in a way that feels kind and careful and easeful? So I never want to be all that. I don't really know what I mean by that. I'm just a woman that feels she's got something to say, something to sing, and something to make. And if I
Yeah.
can bring that to more people and say, this heals me every morning writing to myself. And if I can't write, or if I find I don't have much to say, then I'll just doodle. And sometimes I'll doodle with both hands because there's the bilateral aspect of it that calms the vagus nerve system. So yeah, I'm quite passionate about it.
Yes. I mean, I think, I suppose the surprise, if, the unexpected thing was how hilarious you were. But also, I think, that honesty makes people laugh.
Yeah,
Because it's kind of like, oh my God, she's actually admitting it, she's saying it out loud, and it almost like gives the rest of us permission to say, yeah, I felt like that. And you said something really interesting at the end, which was that obviously a lot of women come up to you afterwards and say, you thanks for that, because it's, you said it out loud, but also a lot of men come up
yeah,
to you.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah. Um, everyone that we live with, that we are surrounded by, that comes into any kind of regular communion with us, also experiences our energetic body. And I think I was alluding specifically to the menopause at that time, which I found absolutely devastating. I mean, it, it was just in the fire of hell for me for about 8 years. But I absolutely know I was forged in that fire. And I had a partner who understood the assignment to be there. Not understand it. I couldn't understand it. I had really intense, like, I don't know whether it would be called body dysmorphia, but I didn't know whose hands I had and I didn't know whose legs I had. Real dissociative episodes. And I was fortunate to have a partner who didn't try and understand it with a limited capacity of thought. He just got the assignment. He was like, my job's to stay. So yeah, we affect everyone around us, and of course we are affected by everyone around us. And I wouldn't
yeah,
say it was an easy assignment, but yeah.
yeah. So, and I think that's the other thing. I was talking to somebody earlier about, it seems now that the kind of perimenopause, menopausal stage can go anywhere from kind of late 30s to 70s. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
a big, big, big chunk of the female life. And, so if we're understanding now that for whatever reason, because that's a whole other debate, people are feeling destabilized, unsafe, crazy, no, and and we know that a lot of men do walk at that time.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there's a complete lack of understanding. And as you say, you didn't even know, which I think is really honest, because you don't even understand how you're coming over.
no,
Um, I went the opposite way. I went into kind of like all my drive and everything just went. And I was just like, just sat.
hmm,
So from somebody who was pretty manic all her life, just kind of changed into this sort of like, like what the hell's happened to you? Just all my drive went, and not that's not always a good thing, because I kind of let
I
that
know,
went. I really did stop caring about pretty much everything because I didn't have that hormone anymore that was coming through the body. So it
I
can be
know.
different for everyone, but I think
Of
it's like
course.
it's kind of getting it all out from under the carpet without
Uh-huh.
shame, and just,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the without shame piece, because when you said that, Lilia, I remember one of the things I kept saying to myself also, which was unkind. But it wasn't unkind, it was just it was an iteration of what was true. I kept saying, I don't know who I am or what I'm for. I don't know who I am or what I'm for. Now often menopause comes with children leaving, parents getting elderly. You're in the middle of this sort of the sandwich generation where you're looking after, and grandchildren might appear, and suddenly like there's no solid ground. But I also experienced that sense of, it wasn't nihilistic, it was just like I don't know, I don't know. And I think it was necessary for me to then be able to use the practices that I then did use. You know, I think I needed to slow down. I needed to slow down. I needed to go slower, but also to come out of here and just feel into here and say, okay, what's going on? Which is a lot of the work that you do. What is going on in this self-sustaining organism that I am, that is blocking ease or joy, which is my whole thing, is joy, um, or compassion. What's going on? What's blocking me?
well, exactly. It's because what's not flowing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
that's the way I see it now is, because we've been so used to thinking and feeling obviously heavier as you get older. The body, you get up in the morning and a body that used to jump out of bed, now you feel every ache and creak and groan. So and that's about flow. Why, what's
yeah,
not flowing? And
uh-huh.
I was talking to Dr. Claire Willocks yesterday, and we're talking about the kind of crone age. I think you and I touched on it, and how in our culture, oh, well, you're not good looking anymore, and things have gone a bit south. So you're almost like, you know put them into a home now before they annoy anybody else. And it's
And it's the
just,
wisest age.
yes, and it's the best age ever.
Yeah,
If you're not riddled with dysregulated hormones and cortisol and
yeah,
disapproval and shame and all that kind of stuff, that the hormones can make you believe are real, because we know that the delicate balance of hormones, and of not being outside enough and having far, far too much to do and not having, feeling supported, etc. Because an awful lot of that used to come from other women. And
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but there's this competition that's like, why on earth would you want to compete with me? I
I
can't
know,
compete.
I know, I know. I hear this sometimes though, where, and I've had random things said to me all my life. Okay, yeah, I do love painting. I do love writing. I do write songs. I do. It's what's in me. If I would do it, even if the world was an empty room and no one could see it, because it's what flows from me. But and you've got such drive and energy and sort of vivacious. I don't know. Love pouring. That for some reason can activate some people to feel competitive, resentful. It's okay. I don't know whether you've ever had this said to you. You might have someone say, it's okay for you that you do this, you do that, but it's okay for you. You can write, you can play the piano. Say, yeah. Do you know how much practice it takes every day to meet myself, to be able to get up? Because I don't meet the world like this. I often say, I make the world quite empty. And if I didn't have my daily practices that get me out of bed, that get me into the shower, that take me to somewhere to write, I don't know what I would do. So I'm not coming here fixed. I'm coming here beautifully broken and going, look, this is what I am. And I'm looking for flow and I'm looking for connection. And this is just my experience. Also, I remember Pema Chodron said this. Pema Chodron, wonderful Buddhist nun. Somebody questions one of her practices or her sort of lived experience practices. And she said, well, it's okay. You don't have to take it on. Like, you don't have to do that. I'm just saying what worked for me. So yeah, so I love, when we met, because we've seen each other online, I would imagine, but when we met, that energetic flow, that enthusiasm, that drive to take out, it's not even to go look at me, it's nothing like that. It's here's what I am learning, not what I have learned. And some of it's funny, a lot of it's funny, and some of it's sad, and some of it's hopeful, but what it is a whole, this is me. Um, and if you say, if I say that's me and I experienced these thoughts I didn't want to be, I mean, some days the amount of time I would be trying to figure out how I could leave this world, but do it so that nobody else was bothered and everybody else was taken care of. I was like trying to work out ways, how can I do this? When I look back at my writing, I'm like, oh my God, I feel such compassion for me. But that was my truth. What I did do was write a song about it, which was Living a Lie, when I realised I am not reflecting how I feel internally and how many of us are.
I know. And that's where the real true connection comes, when people can see your vulnerability and yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right for you. No, it's not.
No.
There's a lot of dark days, a lot of difficult days, a lot of wondering what the hell's this all about and what's going to happen in the future. But if we just stay right here, right now, just for today, we can make it more fun. And from the Heal Scotland perspective of changing our health trajectory from the worst in the world, the worst in the UK, I mean, this is to me just unacceptable and completely unnecessary. And we, the people, can change it through knitting, something like that we used to get together and create clothes for our children and for our men, and then singing and dancing, which we're supposed to do. you
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
not about how beautiful you sound, although you do sound absolutely beautiful, but it's about using your own voice to send information through your body. It's not just about entertainment, it's about being alive. It is necessary for us
Uh-huh.
to sing and chant and hum and sigh and be together, because these are the things that keep the body as an energy system tuned like your guitar. You know, I don't know whether you were there when I was talking about this analogy. You don't throw your guitar out because it's out of tune.
No,
Don't put it in a
exactly.
hole.
Exactly.
You
You
restring it.
don't exactly. Uh-huh.
You
You
restring it.
tend, you take care. How am I going to nourish this? Because it would be very easy to say, I'm just broken. I'm just bad. And the thing is, the more that you say that narrative, the more you say it out loud, the more you hear it reflected back to you, the more you've then got a belief system, which is just something you keep saying so often that you think it's true. I'm done.
And I heard a great analogy from Philip Day. He was saying, if somebody runs a marathon and then they get to the very end and have to be put in a wheelchair to get taken back to wherever they recover, they don't stay in that wheelchair for the rest of their life. They
No,
rest.
no,
And
exactly.
and wait, and you get strong again. And it's the same with grief. Terrible things happen to all of us.
True. It's
Some
true.
people get it much worse. And then, but that recovery and nourishment time. But the problem right now is that people run at the first sign of trouble, which is one of the issues. And
Yeah.
also, people are exhausted. They don't have
Mm,
time to look
I
after
know.
each other. And that's something.
Which is so sad. I don't have the time to do what actually I'm built for
I know.
and what I need to do.
To
You
be of each
know.
other. It's crazy, and that's something that I don't think politicians are ever going to. They're too busy thinking about building the economy, and it's us at a community level that have to recreate the way we want to do it.
That's
So
it. Start
you know,
here.
yes,
Start here. Like this morning, I was talking to a woman in the cafe, and I was doodling and making cards, which I will have with me at Tarbert,
it,
and postcards. And she sort of asked questions because I always say that the making of art in public spaces is a radical act. If you dare to sit down, sometimes I take my paints and actually paint anything. I'm just making patterns on the page, but it's quite radical because people, but then also it can be a conversation starter.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are you doing? And I go, I am soothing the savage beast that is my mind. you know, but yeah, and for me, maybe it's because I'm a woman from the west of Scotland. Life is funny. Like I was brought up, the knitting thing, the sort of knitter natter where women all sit and knit. The first time I really encountered that, I was in hospital. I was 16. I had quite bad psoriasis, and I was knitting. and there were women there that were older than me, and maybe 6 or 7 of us were knitting. The stories that came out of their mouths were hilarious. And I thought, well, this is like an encounter group, but we're all knitting.
Huh.
So there's something really powerful about that knitter natter thing of it, you know.
Absolutely. And we were making a young friend of mine who she's like in her very early 20s, and she just loves all different kinds of wool and knitting and dyeing it from natural. She's a gardener and she's an artist. I'm just thinking I need to get her across here, but she was teaching us how to make string from nettles and wool from nettles. And so what we were doing, we were all just getting the nettles in and we were all just sitting round the table making these tiny little baskets out of nettles, which is exactly what women would have done before.
Yeah.
We would have sat round and we would have made things, and we would, because to survive then we had to have the community. One person couldn't knit all the things and make all the
No,
baskets. We were, somebody
exactly.
would gather the nettles and somebody would pair the nettles and somebody would sit and, we would all play a part in it. And that's kind of what we've lost.
Well,
But
it's like
like when
walking the tweed. You know,
yes,
my grandmother was from Benbecula, and she would talk about walking the tweed, where the women all sat round the table, and you couldn't do that alone. To stretch it that way, you couldn't do it alone. So it's funny, isn't it? If you went back and said, "Do you realise how fortunate you are to have this community?" No, because they didn't not have it.
I know, I know.
But so many people have so much more in many ways. I can go to my tap, get clean water. I can,
Yes.
generally access to these resources at the moment. They're accessible. However, who is there? Are we in our little boxes? There's something about that also. I took a choir for 2 years in the Glasgow Women's Library with my friend Claire Macaulay, and it was a drop-in choir. It was called, hilariously, it was called Utter Raise Your Voice. But we had to stop because we were too loud. But we dealt with one thing a week. It was women's choir. We had one song. We might have looked at anger. We might have looked at shame. We might have looked at joy. We might have looked at whatever creativity. Did a body exercise, learned a song, sang the song. That was it. So you could drop in. And that was another thing about community, that for me was very healing. Here's the thing, when I came to Stonehaven, I've been suffering from really, chronic pain for like 2 months. It's so bad. I was painful when I got there. Didn't know what it was. Tell you a wee short story about that. But it's now been rectified by one, oh my God, one woman, GP, when I told her what was wrong, and I keep saying to it, I've been to other GPs, I've been to all kinds of healing, and I kept saying, this is what's wrong. I know where it is. Please look. She looked. She gave me, as it happened in Eternal, she said, this is what's wrong. Here's a medication. Took medication. 2 months of agony was gone the next day. But
Wow.
when I came to Stonehaven, I was in pain, except I wasn't in pain when I was when I was in that place of communion, when I was singing. There's something about, and how do we get that free flowing joy? Because absolutely, it's a healer. Laughter. You had laughter yoga.
Huh.
That's amazing.
I know, and it's interesting, right? Because I know the benefits of laughter yoga, and Natalie has been amazing, and Cara's trained in it as well. And I used to laugh a lot. I've got four brothers that are all hysterical, so laughter I never needed to kid on ever,
Yeah.
because and being part of my family was hilarious enough. But it's interesting how you can have a bit of resistance, and then you do it, and you're like, why? Why did I not embrace that wholeheartedly? And how people pull away from laughing and
I
breathing.
know. I
And
know. Oh yeah, and breathing. Did you know breathing was important? Why did we not know that? Why in school are we not
I know,
taught about the vagus nerve, the breathing system? It's just madness.
total madness, but we're changing it. We're making
Yep,
it
exactly. You are.
everybody because it is so, so important. And I always say to people, like, if you've discovered, and everybody that presents at the festival is the same. They've walked through their own healing journey, and it's like, well, you're not a doctor. No, don't want to be one. I'm telling you what worked for me, just exactly like you. And it's real people that have had real experiences, that have walked through dark and difficult times, come out the other end going, Yahoo, look, and then they want to share. And what kind of human being would you be if you didn't want to share what made you feel better? You know?
Because
What you,
actually, that then makes you feel better.
yeah.
So it's like very meta. If I share what made me feel better, what brought me ease, I actually feel better having then shared it because, and the thing is, if you share a story, so you'll tell a story about someone. I just heard you say you've got 4 brothers that are hilarious. I've got 2 brothers. I was the only girl. But that's the opener to a story. So when we share a story, it's a greatest gift because I get to keep the story. You've also got it. Now it can go viral if it so chooses, and the gift just spreads. So that's why I share stories and say, this is what happened. Here's a song that came from it, or this is what happened. Here's a poem that came from it. And I tell you what, stories are common experiences. There's none
Absolutely.
of us in this world are special, but we're all
So,
unique.
and it's the stories that bring out the feeling and people can really relate to. So it's a really nice
Exactly.
for sure. I don't know if you've watched The Chosen, it's a story about Jesus. And I thought, why don't they teach it that way? Because even if the story was made up, the whole ethos behind it is beautiful. But we get taught it in such a boring, difficult to
I
believe
know.
way. So when they turn it into a story, you're like, ah, ah.
Well, the thing is, if it's a story, it means I can relate to it. The way that it's taught is other. This is other. Whereas we are all that has ever existed, infinite possibility. That's too scary for any systems that want to be in control. Haha. But stories mean, Me Too. Look, how did the Me Too movement take off? Because people literally, most of them women, said, yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too. That's the virus that goes, wait a minute, shame, as Giselle Pellico said, shame needs to change sides.
Yeah,
Shame needs to change sides. I am not ashamed. I will be a warrior for my truth.
yeah.
So yeah.
It takes courage too, doesn't it? It takes
Oh
courage
yeah.
because of the fear of disapproval. And it's all about fear, and that's how we're controlled. So thank you for being fearless. And I look forward to the many that we can co create together. And I'm just so
Yes.
delighted and honoured that you are going to be with us again in Tarbert. So, again, for anybody watching this that's local from Tarbert, you can rock up and just give a donation if there's certain workshops you want to come to. I highly recommend this one. And yeah, or come for the whole weekend, get a ticket. It's phenomenal value for money. You get all these amazing tester sessions. If you can hang out, you're going to make new friends for sure. It's a great vibe. Educate, inspire, and support. And I know, Christine, you've got a group. You're going to be running different things that you'll talk
Yeah.
about at the festival.
Yes, I
How
will.
tap into some of that energy and create it for them. Learn how to create it for themselves. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Lilia. It's been a pleasure.
I will see you next weekend.
See you next weekend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Have a good weekend.